Welcome to Relationship Ironies of the World We Live in, the podcast where we unpack the real, messy, and sometimes uncomfortable contradictions of how we connect to others, to life, and most of all, to ourselves. This is Architecture of Us, the space where we talk about how we become the people we are today, our relationships with ourselves, and how the journey, every fall, every rebuild, every quiet decision to keep going shapes who we become. I'm your host, Swati Mukherjee, and today's guest is Jacquie Bird. Imagine going from Broadway stages to Tibetan singing bowls, from a nervous breakdown on a beach at 2 in the morning to becoming a sound healer who helps people find their way back to calm. Jacquie spent 2 decades in the entertainment industry as a dancer, singer, and actress. Broadway, television, film, world tour. She choreographed for hundreds of young performers and built the kind of career most people only dream about. But behind the spotlight was a childhood shaped by real hardship. She lost her mother at 9, grew up in a home marked by addiction and cruelty, and by 30, had hit a breaking point that nearly cost her everything. In 2008, on a street in Delhi, a Tibetan singing bowl found her. That one moment planted a seed, one that eventually grew into Jacquie Bird. Spiritual wellness, a platform built on social healing, guided meditation, mindfulness, and radical self-compassion. Today, Jacquie is a sound practitioner, author of 28 daily thoughts and mantras for mindfulness, creator of the Stress Busters guided meditation practice, and founder of the wellness brand Modal Visions. She takes the tool that pulled her out of her own darkest moment and hands them to anyone who needs a way back to clarity. In this conversation, we talk about how singing bowl found her in Delhi the night she chose to live instead of walking into the ocean. Why she stopped judging her younger self for the choices she made and what it really means to heal. Not just erasing your story, but by deciding what it gets to mean. This is a conversation about resilience, reinvention, and finding your way back to your own frequency. Welcome to the Architecture of Us. Let's get into it. Jacquie, how are you?
I'm fine, Swati. I'm good.
Thank you for taking time out today to have this conversation with me on this podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And I feel for you guys. Y'all are boiling right now.
Absolutely. Totally.
But you guys have been boiling for about 3 weeks, yes?
Yes, it's been so hot. And even though I'm from India, I'm like unable to bear this heat.
But you know what? You should be able to handle it. I've been to India. I was there during the monsoon season. And just Southeast Asia in general is some of the hottest places I've ever been. Hong Kong, Kuala Lumpur. I mean, I have been to hot places before, but that's a whole different kind of heat.
Absolutely. Very different. And here the houses are built to trap the heat. So it's a very different ballgame altogether.
Okay, I can understand why it would be oppressive there. Even more so. Wow.
So before we go ahead, Jacquie, tell us, who are we talking to? Who is Jacquie Bird?
Oh God, who's Jacquie Bird? Who knows? I don't even know. My name is Jacquie Bird. I am, how do I describe me? I am based in wellness. I do guided meditation and sound healing and mindfulness. And I'm an author, write. I'm a choreographer. I'm a former performer. I was on Broadway and TV and film. I've traveled extensively. But if we were to say, who is Jacquie Bird? Because that has nothing to do with what Jacquie Bird does. Who is Jacquie Bird? Jacquie Bird is a person in this earth school trying to do the best she can with what she knows. I would say that's part of who Jacquie Bird is.
That's great. And quite a lot of things you've done, Jacquie. Tell us a little bit more about it. What do you mean by sound healing and your wellness part? I do see a lot of your videos and I really want to know more about that.
Well, I mean, you know, there's nothing like adversity and bad times to make you dig deeper. And I've had my share of adversity and bad times and hard times. And I think one of the things I have asked along this path is, can I get the lessons a little easier? Can I not like feel like I'm in a ditch, you know? And so with that question, I started to receive things that help get through some hard times with a bit more ease, because it's all about clarity. So if you are freaking out and worrying and, you know, where's my next paycheck coming from? How am I going to make it? How am I going to get through this crisis? If you have some things you can go to that help you at least calm down, it won't necessarily solve the issues, but it will help you calm enough so that you can see more clearly the issues and the solutions, more importantly. So I think that in that quest, I came upon sound healing. And the funny thing about it is, it took place in your town. Well, maybe not your town, but your country. It was in India. I was teaching for a school called the Dance Works. And I was teaching dance. I was the guest teacher. I was teaching the students, which were the teachers. They were my students. And it was at a time when India was opening up more, I think, to the West. YouTube was burgeoning. And so we each had access to each other's cultures more readily. We were able to see what was happening in India. India was able to see what was happening here. And
so where was this in India?
I was in Delhi. I was in
Okay.
Delhi. I was
You were
in
in the
Delhi.
capital.
I was in the capital. And during that time, one day I'm walking down the street and I get this download, get a Tibetan singing bowl. And I'm like, okay. And I get this singing bowl. And I think, when was I in Delhi? 2008. I was there in 2008. And I get this singing bowl. And I was familiar enough to know that it was a healing and a meditative tool. And as I started to play with it, because I was aching, I was ailing at the time I was there. My feet were killing me because I was teaching on concrete and linoleum. And for a dancer, that's like, and so my feet were killing me. And it was to the point where one morning, it was 3 a.m. and I was awakened by the pain in my feet. And so I started using the bowl. I started working. That was like a sight in and of itself, to see me trying to prop this bowl up on my feet to play it. But I started to do that and other aches and pains I was having at the time. And so I began to realize that this was medicine, that this was really a great tool. And I started telling my students about the bowl, and they're like, oh, it's just a bowl. It's just a bowl. And I'm going, no, this is your culture. This is a gift that your ancestors left, and you need to learn about these things. And so I was telling them, and they were like, really? Really? And so I went, so that was 2008, and I came back and I had the bowl, and I had also bought, is it a tincture, and gotten one of those, and they sat for about 6 years. And then I had one of those situations where I felt like I was in a ditch. And so I was really freaking out and just not being able to see any kind of solutions. So I said, okay, you need to calm down. And I got the bowl and I start to play it and I start to sing with it and I start to calm. And I began to realize, wow, this is really, really something very special. So from that is where I just started to get more interested in the wellness field, using a lot of my own experiences as far as being a teacher, being a dancer, movement. I was already big into aromatherapy and all these other things. And I just started to blend all these modalities that I was involved with. And that's how my Stress Busters guided meditation was born. And since I was already a singer, using my voice with the Tibetan singing bowls, and then I started buying more. And then I started buying other polyphonic instruments. I have gongs. I have this thing I need to get back to called a harp bowl. And I'm always been interested in African instruments. So I started buying, like I have an ngoni, and I just started buying all the stuff. And before I knew it, I had this business. So that's the sound healing. That was the root to the sound healing and everything that I'm doing at this point.
And absolutely. And it is all about frequencies, isn't it? All different
It's
frequencies interacting with you.
It's all about the frequencies. And the funny thing about that first bowl, a couple of people took me to the shop in, is it not Jampa? I forgot the name of the other area that had like old stuff in Delhi. But that's
Not
where
from
people
Delhi. No idea.
you're not from, okay. So, okay. Well, there's an area that had like a lot of old things. And a couple of people said that's where you need to go. So two people took me. And oh gosh, I knew nothing because there actually were all these antique bowls, but they just looked like dirty, unkempt things to me. So I wished I had known better because I would have bought up as everything because they were all antique. But anyway, I ended up getting this bowl after playing probably dozens of bowls. I didn't like the sounds of anything. And one of the people I was with, because they waited patiently, and after a while, one of the people said, "What about this?" and handed me this bowl, and that's the bowl I ended up buying. And as you said, it's all about frequencies, and whether you know the names of the notes or not, your body and all your cells, all of your energy knows that's for me. You don't have to know anything specific. It's just a feeling. And that's the frequency that you're
Absolutely.
connecting on. So that's what
And
ended up happening.
absolutely. And that's even music is my go to. Like, if I'm very stressed, there are two things that I definitely do is one, walk on a treadmill because that movement really helps. And second,
Yes.
blast music.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
even if it's like 2 o'clock in the night and I can't sleep, and it sounds counterintuitive. If I listen to music at late in the night, I might not get more sleep or more, but it relaxes me right away. And after that,
Absolutely.
sleep is all about, whether you're relaxed or not. If you have 10 things on your mind, of course, sleep's going to be very
That's
elusive, isn't
right.
it?
That's right. And I mean, I create music. So I have music for sleep, and I actually play it on the nights that I can't sleep. I will put my music on. And as you said, you have to be relaxed. If your mind is, processing all of the problems that you have, the things you have to solve, processing the things you have to do, you will not fall asleep. It's just not going to happen. So, and if you're dealing with menopausal symptoms, that insomnia that can come with it, those that's when you really need to have something that is calming and soothing and where you can turn your focus to, as opposed to I'm uncomfortable, I'm having a night sweat, or I'm having
Exactly.
insomnia. Those things will keep you awake, guaranteed. So you have to take your focus away from those things. And if you're listening to music, your breath, especially if it's calming, your breath tends to just automatically slow down because you're getting into the frequencies of the sounds that you're listening to. And as your mind starts to slow and you're into the breath, then you begin to calm. And as you begin to calm, then sleep is right there.
Absolutely. That's wonderful, Jackie. This podcast is about how you became the person you became today,
Huh.
right? Your journey and what your journey looks like. And these things that we are talking about right now, about the frequency and the work that you do, that is so much important on this journey, right? So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about your journey. How did you find, I got how you found this
Yeah.
path, but tell me a little bit more about how you became this person.
Well, I personally believe that you're born as you are. You come to this world, you come to this earth, a fully formed entity. That's just how I view things. So I think that the journey, the earth journey, or the earth school, I love Gary Zukov for that, the earth school. I feel that as you come fully formed, you are faced with challenges based on whatever your soul path is. And you have the free will to process things in the way that you choose to process them. So I was born into this world a very happy, as my grandmother puts it, bossy child. So I already came with a sense of self and a sense of confidence and a sense of command. She tells a story. She told me she said I was 2 and I was telling her to get me somebody to play with. And so whenever she would imitate me, she always imitated me in this very high pitched voice. And she says, can you imagine somebody telling me what to do? And she goes, and not only were you telling me what to do, I did it. So that cracked me up because she said, I told her, give me somebody to play with. And she said she was walking down the block, ringing people's bells that she knew had children around my age, asking if they could play with me. So, I already came with that. But what's interesting in terms of, I think, the human experience is you can come with those things, but life will kind of test you in the sense of, are you really that person? And so you end up falling into insecurities. And I was in a very, not necessarily, well, it was competitive, but it was a bit in business. Show business can really, really tear you down because you always have people that you have to go to that are very opinionated. That's the agent, the casting director, the director, if you've been cast, the producer. You have all of these opinions about who you should be for whatever project they are looking at you for. So if you don't have a sense of self, it's very easy to become very, very insecure. So I went through a period because of trying to please or get jobs where I started to kind of doubt myself. But then at the same time, the the confident person that I was and needed to be would step in and go, no, 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 no. So to back up a bit between birth and the business, I came through a very dysfunctional family. My father was extraordinarily cruel. He was an alcoholic. My mother died when I was 9 years old.
Oh,
My
so
father
sorry.
remarried when 5 months after my mother died. So there was this chaos and this uprooting and this very traumatic existence, which lasted probably from age 9 through my mid 30s because it was one challenge after the other. It was my stepmother was cruel also. So it was dealing with that. It was, as I said, the business, which I entered after I graduated from college. So I'd say about 21, 22. So from 9 to about mid 30s. When I was 30, I was suicidal. I had a nervous breakdown when I was 30. So there was all of this stuff and chaos that surrounded me through that early part of my journey. But the great thing is that there were teachers. I had teachers that were encouraging, that recognized me in terms of my talents, my drive, my work ethic. So I had that. School was a respite for me, particularly high school was definitely a respite where, I would leave the night before and I'm laughing because it's just kind of like the sense of, yes, these things were very traumatic and horrible, but also just I'm laughing because it's part of the past story. So like my father, when I was 16, he was really, really drinking very heavily and he was making his own alcohol. So if you can imagine the potency of homemade beer for an alcoholic, So one night, if I didn't scream, he would have killed her. He was choking my stepmother. And I was screaming and he ended up stopping. So imagine going from that to summer school the next day. So it was always these extremes, and just me trying to stay under the fray as much as I could, and as even tempered and calm as I could be. So, that was a lot of my upbringing. And my father also cut me off from my mother's family. So I don't really know them. Cut me off from his family. So there was a lot of things in my adult life that still to this day exist in terms of my separateness from my remaining aunt and my younger brother, who I just eventually just went one day, you don't need this crap that they're dishing out. So just terminate it. So I don't deal with them. And I think at another point in time, well, I know at another point in time, I would have been trying to bridge the gap and make friends. And I did that. And it's like, girl, you did that. Been there, done. We don't need to do that anymore. So that in a, encapsulated short story of early years in life.
That is really, really something, Jackie. The journey that you have had, and you have come a long way from there, isn't it? Love
Well,
that.
I think one of the things I realized, and that's why also I do what I do, is because the realization was and is, these are things that happen, these are things I've experienced, but they're not me. They are things that are in the chapter, in the book, but they are not who I am. And so I am able to see those things and recognize, yes, they were traumatic, but they don't inform in the sense of the quality of the life that I have. I don't allow those things to be an excuse or a reason, not an excuse, a reason to not enjoy my life, to not understand that I am the captain of my ship and all the other cliches that you can put. They help me be this person who is very comfortable in her own skin, who is a kind-hearted person, because I came here that way and I didn't allow the cruelty that I've experienced in my life to change who I am as a result of what I've received. It has also informed me in terms of the kind of person I choose to be, and that I have the power over that. I don't have the power over what happened to me, but I have the power over how I process it and how I use it as a tool to say, this is what I came through. So I understand where you are, I understand the fear, the depression, the hopelessness. I understand it because I did it. I've been there. I know what that is. I know what that feels like. But I can also say, you don't have to stay there. You can enjoy your life. You can have a good life. You have to decide that that's what you're going to do.
Absolutely. And I am totally with you on this. I think all of us, all of the people, coaches in the wellness industry, we do this because of certain reasons, because of maybe our past experiences. And I think I would not go back and change anything in my journey, even though it has also been very, up and down, traumatic, everything. But I would not change anything because that made me the person I am today.
I concur. I agree. I definitely agree. Because I think that the things that you experience in your life are there for you, even though they don't feel like they're there for you and they hurt like hell. But they are there for you to become more. Yeah, to become more and to really have say and take agency in your life. Because you can decide, that hurt, I'm not going to do that to anybody else. And I am also going to not allow those things to inform how I live in terms of, I went through this and it was no, I went through it. I'm on the other side of it. and I can relate to, as I said earlier, someone who is going through that. And I can say, these are some of the things that I did. And these are some of the tools I use. And I can suggest those to you. And then it's up to that person to decide. These things I can try, these things work or not.
Absolutely. And that is exactly how I feel about it as well, because I have also gone through depression, have come out the other side, and I know the signs too well, right? I know how
Mhm.
it feels. I know how difficult it gets sometimes to get out of bed. So,
Yes.
instead of judging at those times,
Yes.
I would say, this is what I did. So,
Yeah.
I just want to ask you this because the person in front of me, I would not have guessed you have ever been, through this journey and through depression. So,
Yeah.
how did you deal with that? What is it that you would suggest?
It's interesting because I told you I write. So I have a Substack and I had found all of this stuff I had written about 20 years ago. I'd forgotten all about this. And I kind of see the pain that I was in at the time. And as far as the nervous breakdown that I had, I was 30 and everything was crap. My marriage had fallen apart. I had gotten entangled in a really jacked up relationship on top of the marriage falling apart. And then I was working a show. I was a dance captain, and the dance captain is in charge with maintaining a show, a musical. And there was a lot of trauma and stuff going on with that. So all the areas of my life were just crap. And I had also come through and was still dealing with a lot of the dysfunction in my family. So there was all that crap going on. And my father had disowned me. And at one, he had like, what was it, 6 years prior, 7 years prior, he'd throw me out of the house. So I was dealing with all of that stuff. And also the expectations of what I thought my life should have looked like at 30. And it was based on nothing that had to do with me. It was based on what people say should be happening in your life when you're 30. And I did not know enough to question, is this applicable to me? I didn't have those skills at that time. And so here I am having this nervous breakdown. And one night I almost bought the farm. I was out on the beach at 2 in the morning. And I remembered looking at the ocean going, if you just walk out there, you don't have to deal with anything. You'll be done. And it was so inviting. It was almost like the Greek myths, the sirens calling you, calling you. And I was looking at that black and I remembered having a thought, just a fleeting thought in the midst of all that anguish of, if you do this, you're going to upset two people. Because I had a best friend at the time that I was doing the show with. She was like my sister. And one of the musicians was there, down in Atlantic City, who was like my brother. So I knew that if I did not show up, that these two would be distraught and they would be out looking for me. And that fleeting thought was enough to deflect the anguish and the hopelessness just for a moment. It was just like a little shooting star. And I remember thinking, I gotta go home. I was still I just seem to remember, because some of it's kind of a fog, but I seem to remember it was just one step at a time. It was just that decision of not offing myself was really the beginning of coming back, even though it didn't feel like that. But it was that decision of, okay, I'm gonna live. I remembered having a book. There was a book a friend of mine had given me. And when the tour was over and I got back home, that book had sat on my shelf for about a year. It was called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And I picked it up, took it off the shelf, and I looked at what she had written a year prior. And it was a reference to, I miss that lovely smile. And again, it was a fleeting thought, but I had that moment where I went, I haven't been smiling. It was like I had been absent for a year or two. And that reading that made me go, how could I not be smiling? I'm always smiling. I am always laughing. I am always bright. And so again, I'm still depressed, but there was another little seed in there. And I began to read the book. And there were some real jewels in there that kind of made me wake up a little bit more. You know, she talks about martyrs. She talks about roles that you play in a family. And these were ideas and concepts that I had never considered. So, you know, as I started to read the book, I started to become more animated and started to become, even though I didn't realize this, more of who I am. And then it took, I don't know how many months went, and I still had all the crap going on. I still had the marriage and the husband that was fighting the divorce. I still had the because he was also harassing me. So I still had the domestic stuff, abuse, because we had fights. I still had to call the police. All that stuff was still going on. I still had the relationship that was, and he was drug addict. So I still had all the stuff like that, like Peanuts with the Linus. No, which character is it? Pigpen with the dust and the dirt flowing. I still had all that going on. But in the meantime, I was kind of coming back to myself. And so I was devouring all these self-help books, everything I could get my hands on. So all of that was going on. And, you know, sometimes when you are healing, you don't necessarily know that that's what's going on because you're in the process of it and you are in the action of it. So you may not necessarily go, I'm healing. You are just doing, you're in the journey of it. So all of that was going on. And then one day, and I can't remember timelines, but one day I had a gig and I had gotten hired. I had gotten hired to dance on a soap opera, one of the popular soap operas at the time. And we were on a break. And so we're sitting in like the green room or whatever, and we're talking. And the choreographer looked at me very pointedly. And so I'm going, what's he looking at me? What's he looking at me? And he's looking at me and he's, almost like he's trying to figure out something. And then he went, I got it. You're laughing. And this was somebody that knew me. This was somebody that taught at a studio that I taught at. And he had, we weren't close, but he knew me well enough to recognize that something was amiss and now something seems to be okay. So him saying that really stunned me because again, it was like what my friend had written, that I wasn't laughing. I wasn't smiling. And now I am. So that was probably the first moment of realizing that I had been absent, that I had been so deep in the depression that I was consumed by and with that. And I was now in the place of coming back.
That really, really, takes me back to a lot of my journey as well. But really, thank you for sharing this. For me as well, there was one moment, I seem to recall that moment very clearly. Before that, I was like, why is this happening to me? Why this, that? I'm the victim here, I'm this and that. And then there was this moment when things changed. Yeah, I made some mistakes in that specific moment that I'm talking about. And after that moment, it was like, I can't be the victim. I'm not the victim.
That's right.
I'm gonna live and I'm gonna survive this whole ordeal. And this was back in 2007.
Wow.
There was, of course, I can't say that everything became like amazingly great after that. No, it's always a journey.
Yes.
And sometimes even now, I mean, you feel the pressure. You're like, oh my God, I just want to give up. You know at the back of your head that no,
Yeah,
you
that's
are
right.
not the victim.
That's right. And I think for me too, again, that book was so pivotal for me, the Louise Hay book, because she talks about things in terms of being kind to yourself. And if you've never been taught that as a kid, and if all you saw was anger and cruelty, and so you don't have the vocabulary and the verbiage for be kind to yourself. What the heck is that? You don't know what that is. You don't have that tool. So I think that for me, people speak in terms of, oh, I made mistakes, or oh, I made bad choices, or oh, I had flaws. For me, I took all that out of my vocabulary because I felt and feel that it's putting you down. And I look at it in terms of, these are choices I made. Now, would I make them again? No. But these are choices I made with the information I had at the time, with the education I had at the time, with the life experience I had at the time. And I look back on this time because there were a lot of choices I made. Like I was going to, when I was 16, I was going to move out. I had packed all my stuff. There was she wasn't biologically my aunt, but her daughter and I were good friends. So we considered ourselves cousins, and her family was related to an aunt of mine. But what I didn't know at the time was that my uncle and my aunt were not married, had not married. So she wasn't even legally my aunt. But anyway, you're 16 and you got a cousin, and it's like, I got a cousin. Ooh. So it had gotten so bad in my house that I decided I was moving out. And her name is Kim. Her mother said that I could move in with them, and I had packed all my stuff. And as I was handing my father the key, and he decided he didn't want me to go. Now, I can look back on that and go, girl, you should have kept going. You should have just given him the key and kept going, because it got worse after that. My home situation got worse after that. But in hindsight, who knows? Maybe my moving would have been an even or a just as bad situation. I don't know. So I think that when you look at yourself with kindness and you look at the choices with kindness, you are operating on, as I said, what you already know, what your life experience has told you. And the other stuff that came after is part of the chapter and my life experience, where I can go, yeah, I understand when you make a choice that goes against what your soul is telling you, what your gut is telling you. When you make a choice out of fear, I know what that feels like and that experience is.
Absolutely.
Many times.
And we do judge ourselves a lot harsher than we would ever judge anyone else.
Oh boy, how true is that? How true is
And,
that?
and I think that is one of the biggest things that I've learned. Stop judging your past self. That's an
Yes.
amazing thought, Jackie. I love
Yeah.
that.
I have an article I've written, and actually um, an episode, and it's called What I Would Tell My Younger Self. And I rewrite it as time goes on. I think I first wrote it maybe 6 years ago, and I've since revisited the article and written it again. And I'm about to probably do it again, because as you gain more years, you go, oh yeah, I could add that. But when I was writing that article the first time, and I gathered like pictures from, when I was a kid, through high school and through the different stages, I gained such a respect for the younger versions of myself, because they're the ones that had to deal with that crap, So
I can totally
when I
relate.
think about like when my mother died and the chaos that surrounded that and the dysfunction that surrounded that, and you dealing with all these adults that don't know what they're doing, and you are looking at this and you're just trying to figure, you where the easiest or the path of least resistance is. So you're just, when I look back on her, that 9-year-old, I just remember somebody who was very calm and observing everything. And, I was also taught to be a good girl. So you have that aspect of trying to be a good kid, and you see stuff is wrong. Is wrong, but you don't have the vocabulary to say it. You better not say it to the adults because you're going to get slapped or hit with the switch or a belt or whatever. So, I look at her and I look at her with such grace and gratitude because I didn't have time to grieve. I didn't have time to miss my mother. There was no time. It was just, because after she died, my father, I guess, went buck wild. And there was always some gal at my house that was, I don't know, she was supposed to be my babysitter. So that was going on, all these different women coming through my house. And some of them favored my brother because my brother was newborn. And so, he was still so cute, and I'm just a 9-year-old kid. Ugh, who wants to deal with that? So I had that stuff going on and trying to make sense of that because I'm like, I want to be your friend and you don't want to be my friend. So that stuff was going on. And then bam, 5 months later, this new woman is in my house announcing that she's now married to my father. And that was another one of those situations where I had a choice. She said, which she denied later. She denied later in life. Matter of fact, she denied everything I told her that she said and did to me. She denied it. She told me in that moment, you can call me Gloria or you can call me mommy. And because I was the good kid, I chose to call her mommy. And so that's a decision that, as I look back, I go, oh, well, kid, maybe you should have called her Gloria. But it was out of my wanting to be her friend, out of my wanting to please, out of wanting to not make waves. Oh, that changed in about 3 years. Then I became a hellion on wheels and we would fight about everything. But I was still that little sweet kid who wanted to just have peace. I was my Aquarian self. And so, that girl, she showed it a lot. And not only did my mother die, my father remarry in the same year, I also got bused to a new school. And I was going to an elementary school in my neighborhood that was reflective of the demographics. It was primarily a Black neighborhood. And I went to school with people that look like me. Now I'm being bused over a mile from my house, and not being bused where I get in a school bus. I have to get 2 buses by myself to go to this school. So that all happened at the age of 9. So I look at her and I go, wow. You, Diva, you set the tone for the rest of my life, that 9-year-old.
And losing a parent is difficult, whatever the age.
Yes.
It's all, I have gone through that. I lost my father when I was 7. I lost my mother 3 years ago. So, I used to think, the 7-year-old version of me used to think that when I'm an adult in my 30s, it won't hurt that much. I would be ready for it. Guess what? I wasn't.
I know you weren't.
Yeah, losing a parent is difficult, whatever the age, and we do need time to grieve.
Yeah.
Without that,
when my dad passed, oh gosh, I was in my 50s. I had just turned 50. And he didn't talk to me for 20 years. So I had been trying over the 20 years to make amends with him. Not that I had any amends to make with him, but the last 6 years of his life, I was a part of it. And so by the time he passed, that was interesting because I didn't grieve. I was grateful because I had an opportunity to make peace with him. He gave me that opportunity to make peace with him. And there were some things I got to find out that I didn't know in terms of how he met my mother. And I got more information in terms of him as a 21-year-old, because they were both 21 when I was conceived. And also having more understanding about that time period, the late 50s, early 60s, having more of an understanding about his life and his frustrations, being able to understand more of his anger, his rage, really. Had more of a sense of those things in the last 6 years of his life. And so when he passed, first of all, I knew it was coming a year before he died. I knew he was dying. Neither my stepmother or my brother wanted to recognize it, but I told them, I said, he's dying. So come on, get your ducks in a row. But people were in denial. So, you just kind of go, well, I told you. But when he passed, like I said, I didn't grieve because I felt more gratitude. And I have to because I know I wrote something after he passed. And that also helped me in terms of recognizing, it's okay. It's, something that all of us are going to step through that door. And I think because we had made peace with each other, I didn't have that on my shoulders of, oh, he passed and we still weren't talking to each other, But I also know well enough in my own life experience, I've had I don't know what you call it, the honor, the pleasure, grace to have received information from people that are no longer in the physical. So because that has happened to me repeatedly in my life journey, I know a little bit more about what takes place when we're on the other side, when we're in the non-physical, because that's where we come from. So this is actually the dream. We think this is the reality and that a death is the non-reality, but this is the non-reality. This is the illusion that we're living. I have
That's
more of
very
an understanding of that as a result of messages I've received for people that are still here, from people that are not here, and having a bit of a window into that. So I think in this point in my life, at least as far as my father is concerned, and my stepmother just passed a few years ago, and we've had a very tumultuous existence together. But I had gotten to a point where I got tired of it. It was like, I'm tired of hating you, and I'm tired of being mad at you. So I reached out to her, and she was not receptive for a long time. And then eventually she became receptive. And then we became great friends. And then we became not great friends. And so we went through our own cycles after he died of, that relationship. And I got a better understanding into her. I got a better understanding into why she was the way she was. And she was still in denial about a lot of stuff. Like I said, she denied everything I told her of what she said and how she treated me as a child. But it didn't matter because I know what happened. And so the fact that she was in denial, I didn't need her recognition of, I did these things to you. I didn't need that. It would have been nice, but I didn't need to have it. Because as I said, I know what happened to me. I know what she did. I know what she said. But, when she passed, where were we at that point? I think we had kind of come to even ground because it was rocky in the last few years of her life. But I felt like, okay, you're free now. You don't have to be fearful. You don't have to struggle. You're not in pain. So it was more of a relief for me in a way that she had passed on, because I felt that she would now finally get the peace that she never had in this lifetime. She had a hard life. This was a hard, whatever assignment she took, woof, she took a rough one. She really did.
What an amazing journey, Jackie. Whole complete mind-blowing journey. I just have one more question for you. Tell me a little bit about the show business that you were part of, and how was it? What did you do?
Well, I mean, that's also, I'm now viewing that through a different lens. I was frustrated for most of my career because, again, it's this thing of trying to achieve things that people say you should achieve in your career. And it took another depression to decide to put a scrapbook together. And when I put the scrapbook together, I went, you did everything except for two things that you wanted to accomplish in your career. So I was primarily a dancer, singer, actress. I did, as I said, TV. I did Broadway. I did film. I toured. I got to travel being in show business. And
Want
it
to
was
give us
quite,
any names?
I mean, I will. Nobody would have heard of the two shows I did because they ran and they closed real fast. But I did a revival called OK, which was a very famous producer, David Merrick. He had done 42nd Street. That is a podcast episode in of itself. That show, my God. So I did that. That was my first Broadway show. And then my last Broadway show was called Play On. And it was also short-lived. It was basically a review, and it was based on the music of Duke Ellington. And Duke Ellington's music is pretty much the soundtrack of my career because I did Sophisticated Ladies, which was Duke Ellington music. And I did, 5 tours, 5 shows, 5 companies. I think I did 5 companies of that show. Duke Ellington's music. And then I did some TV stuff, was it Roseanne Barr? She had a variety show. She had I think it was a talk show. And I got to dance on that. When videos were starting to come out, I did those. I hated videos, but I did a few. And I did a couple of films. I was in Spike Lee's School Days. I did the Cotton Club movie. What else did I do? It's like I did a lot of stuff, so I don't quite remember everything. I would have to look at my resume. Oh, I did the Olympics. I danced in the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. I was also an assistant choreographer. That's a podcast episode in and of itself. I did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I did like opening ceremonies for things, and I did a couple of plays because I started to transition away from dance, and I became more of a singer, dancer, and an actress. So I was, segueing into those things. And I kind of have put everything into like a little short basket because I was in business for about 20 years. So there's a lot of ground I covered.
Honestly, Jacquie, I have so many questions for you right now that I think it will take another episode at least to cover all those questions. But it is really amazing, and we are a bit running out of time now. So I really, really want to, say you have had such amazing experiences. I know you've traveled a lot. We've just touched upon it a little bit.
Yeah.
And the kind of life that you've had. Wow.
I'm grateful. It's like that little girl at 9 years old, she would be in awe of the things that I've done, and she would not be surprised either because I already had showbiz in the blood, and I also wanted to travel. I really wanted to see the world, and so the fact that I've gotten to see a lot of it just makes the 9-year-old really happy. She wants to go away again. She wants to do more traveling.
So you are currently based in AC?
I'm in Jersey City. I'm in Jersey City, New Jersey. So I'm on the East Coast. And
that's great. It was such a wonderful, wonderful conversation, Jacquie. And thank you so much for sharing so much of your life, of your journey, of your wisdom with us. And I am just in awe. Really.
Oh, gosh. Thank you. I appreciate the chance that I have to speak on my journey up to this point and the things that I've learned, and I hope that it's useful to your audience.
Thank you so much.